Okay, then let's start. Yes, could clay earth building materials compete with carbon tax through their low environmental cost? I want to give an overview first, the arguments why clay building materials are bought, why this customer buys these products. And I want to give you an overview for the German market. What are the kinds of products the people ask for? First, the times changed. I shall show you one photo of the year of 1984. It's Peter Breidenbach with a red shirt and me with the yellow one in one of our first machines where we produced light clay. It was very handcrafts kind to work, and these were the beginnings for on the building site. You see, the things changed. Now this is a modern production of earthen building materials from this year, because the market is growing and the demands on the quality increased. The customer wants more. They want a better, stable quality, and we have in Germany the DIN standards, and we have to follow it. So we need exactly production and yes, production that have always the same results. The changing sales arguments, the sales arguments changed too. When we started in the 18th, it was often about the health. The people was afraid of poisoned building materials, so they said clay is a very clean material. With the times, it get more to indoor climate, not only health, but indoor climate. The moisture in the room is better and stable than with other surfaces. And the beauty of the surfaces became more and more important too. I'm sure if the clay building materials would not be look so fine, it would have been impossible to build up a market for them. The ecological argument we always took with us in all these years, and the people always said, yes, that's very fine, but that is the main argument which is coming absolutely to the front of you. This is a thing of the last few years, maybe because of Fridays for Future possible, but the ecological argument has got more and more important in the last years. We have a product which has an adequate dimensioning for his jobs, for the things it should do. The natural binding ability of clay is given by the nature. We don't have to produce this with chemical or firing processes which need much energy, but it's given by nature for free. And this is far enough for a multitude of application. If you think on indoor plaster, for example, it is strong enough what nature gives us with this material. Today's building materials are mostly far over dimensioned for the task. Think of concrete, for example, where you make a ground floor of, and you can build a skyscraper with this more or less as well. And they are just energetical over dimensioned. And so we look for materials, we look for things to work with, which has has so much strongness and so much energy within as it is necessary, and not more. The environmental benefits that we reach with these materials, we have simple raw materials coming from very close to our place in Corona crisis, COVID crisis. We had no problem with the supplier chains, the clay was only a few miles away, and the sand and the straw as well. We have a very simple raw material. We don't have to move the landscape from the feet to head to gunman to get the material. It's just under the soil. We have a very low energy consumption by producing this material. The materials we sell in the earth humid way have only 6% of the energy within what you have usually with fired materials. They have a very long life. Christoph Siegert has fine examples from the city of Uruk, thousands and thousands years old straw clay mixings, and we have our experience with the timber frame houses here in Germany. They are 700-800 years old, and the straw clay is like the first day. And the material, I think Horst Schröder talked about this, is reusable as no other material we know. We can always use it again. For example, the sand is getting more and more less here in Germany, and I think all over the world. We can give back the sand in a few years if the clay should be not used. We have only landed the materials. Okay, how are clay products used on the market? I think still have the German. Okay. How are the materials and the products used in Germany? The most important part of the market are the clay plasters, the brown easy clay plasters for the room climate. Second one is the clay dry buildings, clay dry building techniques. They made a big, they rised up in the last years. The fine finish surfaces, the colored surfaces are very important. And we have in German the timber frame restoration, still an important thing, with the indoor inside insulation, and not very important masonry and rammed earth. I will show you just a few of these products that you know what we are talking about. Most important product, this clay only made of clay, sand and straw. It's our basic product from the first day on, and it's very successful for old and new houses. We have the same, very important too. Without straw, only sand and clay based material. We have the material as a fine plaster, which is very important, which is brought up 3 mils on the walls, and we have just this kinds of colored plasters. We look for this pure clay in the nature, the red one, the yellow one, the green one, and so on. And they are so bright and intensive as you see it here. And we mix 146 colors of them, and no pigments or anything we add. The clay is the color and the binder in one material, and this is the fascination of this material, and it's running very well to do colored clays plaster with natural pure clays. These are the finish kinds, only thin layers, for example, on clayboards, or even you can do a painting with the clay materials. It's a little bit other product, but it's just 2 in 146 color types. Then the clay dry welding systems rised up in the last 3 years, I think, to one of the most important parts of all the products. The dry building techniques, which correspond to wooden building techniques, and yes, customer ask for this very much, very often, and big building sites are now actually done and are coming in the next years. First, this is a board we produce since 1996. It's from reed and clay, running very well. We have this one from the corporation Hartkeramik. It's called LEMIX. It's pure clay. It's far more heavy. It's the density is here we have 1,600. It's 1,450 in reality, a little bit less, but it is a very heavy board with much clay and yes, much thermal mass. And a cheap kind to work in dry building system are wooden fiber boards. They run very well as well, and they are excellent carrier for substrates for the clay plasters. And to show, to give this overview, what are the important things that are on the market, which are really sold, not only 1 or 2 building sites a year, which are shown in every architecture magazines, but what the people really buy are, as you see here, it is the clay plaster. Very important, the brown, simple clay plaster. Very important as well, the fine finish surfaces. The clay dry building, rising, very fine. We had maybe for 3 years, it was something like this, like the half. Timber frame restoration, it's still important on our market. If you think the inside insulation, you can add to the timber frame restoration. It's often the same building site, so you would have these two together. And masonry, rammed earth are only a little bit. It's something, I think, 2% of the turnover. Yes, this was in the very short time the things I want to show you. Yes, and so I thank you very much for listening to me, and we'll see what the questions will be for maybe. Thank you.